The mother wandered from place to place every day, dragging along her mentally impaired younger daughter, while the elder daughter was chauffeured around in luxury cars all day. It wasn't because the elder daughter lacked filial piety, but rather she had just graduated from university and was quickly recruited by a multinational company. She signed a 10-year confidentiality contract and simply didn't have time to visit her family. 10 years later, when the woman returned to her country, she discovered that her mother had become blind and her sister had lost her sanity. When the mother heard that her elder daughter had returned with the village chief's son, she slapped her daughter across the face on the spot. The woman was utterly bewildered by her mother's reaction. After all, it was the village chief who had lent the money for her to attend university. So why was her mother reacting so strongly at the mere mention of his name now? She even threatened to cut ties with her on the spot. The woman couldn't understand her mother's and sister's current situation either. She had sent a large sum of money home every year, so how could her mother be wandering the streets with her sister? It turned out that 14 years ago, the elder daughter had successfully been admitted to a top university. Her father had planned to use the 200,000 yuan compensation the village was about to distribute for land acquisition to fund her education, but the village chief, colluding with a local thug, had taken over the family's compensation money, claiming that it was because he had no son. Her father had knelt on the ground pleading for the money, but no one stood up for him. Afterward, the village chief hypocritically approached the father, saying he was willing to lend the man 200,000 yuan to send his daughter to university, but only if he signed an IOU. For the sake of his daughter's future, the man signed the note. When he got home, he lied to his daughter to avoid burdening her with guilt, saying the money was a donation from the village chief because she was the only university student in the village, because she was the only one from the village to go to university. The elder daughter believed her father and was very grateful to the village chief, but she had no idea that shortly after she boarded the bus to school, the village chief led a group to throw all their belongings out of the house, and her family was forced out of their home. Her father asked the village chief what he was trying to do, only to be confronted by the thug who produced the IOU, stating clearly that if the debt wasn't repaid within 10 days, the house would belong to the village chief. Only then did the man realize that he had been deceived by the village chief. But seeing the thug and his henchmen, the man didn't dare resist. Instead, he knelt and begged them to spare his family. But it was to no avail, and they were ultimately driven out of their home. Meanwhile, after entering university, the woman quickly achieved success in her field of study and was soon recruited by a company, earning a handsome income. At this point, she started sending money home, hoping her parents could use it to improve their living conditions. But she never imagined that all the money was taken by the village chief and never reached her parents. The village chief even forged letters in her father's handwriting, telling her that nothing major had happened at home and that she should focus on her work without worrying about visiting. A few years later, the woman unexpectedly saw the village chief's younger son applying for a job at her company. Out of gratitude for the village chief's supposed support, she arranged a high-paying job for him and even gave him a 7-figure check. After her 10-year contract expired, the woman returned to her hometown with the village chief's younger son, only to find that the situation in the village was nothing like what her father had described in his letters, and her family's house had completely disappeared. She then tried to ask around for her parents' whereabouts, only to see her mother begging on the street with her sister.